Problem 11. Name the smallest fraction. So let's be aware on this part of the test, because one of the common errors here is that we avoid writing the instructions and we just get the wrong answer all the time because we avoid writing the instructions. If we don't read the instructions, we're definitely gonna get our answer wrong 100%, even though we do the right work, because they're asking you to name the smallest fraction. They're not asking you to list it from the smallest to the largest. So if we're about to compare these fractions, we gotta make sure that they have the same denominator. So we must find the LCD between 24, 12, 2, 24, and 16. So how are we gonna find the LCD? First of all, let's break the product into a product of prime numbers. So we're gonna find the LCD between 24, 12, 2, and 16. So this 24 could be written as 8 times 3, and this could be a 2 times 4, and this part here can be a 2 times 2 times a 3. Now the 12, I think I'm gonna need a little bit more space here, so let's do 12 here. 12 is going to be 4 times 3, and this 4 itself is 2 times 2, and bring this 3 down. So since we're done with 12, let's do now 2. Well, 2 is just 2, so just keep that 2 there. Now we gotta do the 24, but we have the 24 there already. Let's do 16. 16 should be 4 times 4, and this 4 can be a 2 times 2 and a 2 times 2. Now let's do the LCM, or the least common denominator, in this case LCD. What would my LCD be? Well, I make sure I pick one of the full lists here. I'll put the list here, so it could be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And I have to make sure that this part here, this 12, is included here. Do I have a pair of 2's here? Yes, I do. Do I have a 3 there? Yes, I do have a 3 as well. So yes, I do have that. Do I have a 2? I have 3 of them, so I have enough. What about here 16? Do I have a 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? So let's see. So far I only have 3 2's here, so I need 1 extra, so I must add 1 extra 2 to complete the 16. Therefore my LCD should be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Let's recall what 2 times 2 times 3 was. That was actually the 24. So this was 24 times 2, and 24 times 2 is 48. So your LCD is 48. I need to write every single fraction as an equivalent fraction with denominator 48. So 24 times what will give me 48? 24 times 2. So I put times 2 here, times 2 here. So that's actually a 22 over 48. Then I will write this 12. 12 times what will give me a 48? Now, one of the techniques that we learned earlier was that if the 12 is made out of a 2 times 2 times 3, so if I cross that out, a 2, and a 3, I'm left with a 2 and another 2, which 2 times 2 makes 4. So 12 times 4 makes 48. So I must multiply this by 4 and times 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. So I have a 20 over 48. Same idea with the 2. So if I have to cross out a 2, well, 2 times 24 give you 48. So let's multiply this times 24. And 3 times 24, what would that be? I'm not sure about that. So let's do 3 times 24. That'll give you 1272. So that was a 72 over 48. So 17 over 24, I gotta convert that into another fraction with 48. So that will be times 2, top and bottom. So 17 times 2 will be, what will 17 times 2 be? I think that's a 34. So that will be 34 over 48. 16 times what will give you 48? Times 3, top and bottom. So 7 times 3 is 21 over 48. Now I can compare each fraction. I just draw underneath which fraction was this is equivalent to that, this is equivalent to this, and as well these two other fractions. So which of them, since they have the same denominator, now it's easier for us to compare the numerators. Let's just seek for the smallest numerator, the top bar. 22, 20, 72, 34, 21. We can clearly see that 20 is the smallest one. Therefore, if this one here is the smallest fraction, that means that the one that was equivalent to the 7 over 12 is the smallest fraction of all. So 7 over 12 should be the smallest fraction. So just be aware of this type of problem. Always read the instructions. Read the instructions because of the given problem. Sometimes they will ask you, list from the smallest to the largest, then you will just have to list them out from the smallest to the largest or the largest to the smallest. So be aware of this type. Just read the instructions all the time. Now let's do problem number 12. Now they say list from the smallest to the largest. So once again we need to find the least common denominator from all of them, because that will make everything easier to compare them. Right now we can tell which one is bigger, which one is small among all of those fractions. Therefore let's find the least common denominator from all of them. So I have a 7, a 5, and a 35. Well, 7 is prime, 5 is prime, but this 35 could be a 7 times 5. And as we said before, our LCD should include one of those lists and make sure that the rest is already included. Do I have a 7 on my list? Yes. Do I have a 5? Yes. Therefore, my LCD should be yes, 35. Now let's make each denominator at 35. 7 times what give you 35? 7 times 5. If I multiply times 5 here, I should multiply times 5 on top in order to have an equivalent fraction. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 over 35. Now 5 times 7, top and bottom. And 7 times 2, or 2 times 7 is 14. 14 over 35. And this was already 35, so just keep them with the 35. Now I'm putting underneath them so you make sure these fractions are equivalent, these fractions are just the same. Now it's time for us to compare which of them is the smallest one. So we're gonna have 4 fractions. So what I particularly do here is I'm just gonna put 4 spaces here that to fill out 1, 2, 3, 4. So I list from the smallest to the largest or vice versa. So I have a 20, 14, 13, and 19. Well, the smallest of all of them is a 13, 35. This one here. So, but this is actually the number here, the 13 over 35. So the smallest will be 13 over 35. And since I already done that number there, I'll just sort of cross it out, be like, okay, I'm done with this one here, so I don't need to use it anymore. Now let's keep following. After 13 will be the 14, and the 14 is actually the 2 over 5. So 2 over 5 should go here, 2/5. And once again, we already used this. Now after 14 should be the 1935, which 1935 is a 1935. So you just write there 19 over 35. And what is left over should be the largest one. So actually it's the 20 over 35, which was the 4 over 7. So now we just listed from the smallest fraction to the largest fraction. Now we will have problem 13, where they're telling to solve and simplify, show steps and calculations. Now problem 13, they're asking you to find the average. Say find the average. But what does the average mean? They're asking you to find the average of 5 over 6, 2/3, and 1 and 1/6. Let's recall that the average is the sum. The average is the sum of all the fractions of all items, I will call it items, divided by the number of items. So in this case, the sum of all the fractions, and the sum is the result of adding everything. So it will be this plus this plus this divided by the number of items. Divided by the number of items will be 1, 2, 3 divided by 3. So that's what we're going to do here. So far, let's find the sum. So let's find the sum. So let's add them up and align them vertical. So we 5/6 plus 2/3 plus 1 and 1/6. Let's add them up. Now, if I'm going to find the sum of this part here, I gotta make sure that they have the same denominator. 6, 3 and 6 do not have the same denominator. So you have to find the LCD between them. After you have done your steps, so I'll leave you this part of the LCD for you. Now, after you've done your LCD, you will find out that this LCD was actually 6. Now, when you found that number, you know you have to break it into product of prime numbers and make sure each factor is included in your LCD. So 6 will be, well, 6 is already a 6, so I don't have to do anything there. So I'll just copy 5/6. But this part here, this 3, I gotta multiply times 2 top and bottom to obtain a 4/6. And this part here is already a 6 in the denominator. So I'll just copy again 1/1/6. Now I'm gonna have to add them up. So 5 plus 4 plus 1 should be 10/6, and I have a 1 left there. However, this part here, this is an improper fraction, and we cannot have an improper fraction there. So what am I going to do if this is an improper fraction? Well, let's recall that we have to change that improper into a regular fraction. So, a mixed numeral. So 10/6. Let's do that. 10 divided by 6. I'll do it with yellow. Over 6. So that will be 1. It goes into that, subtract that 4. So that actually is 1 and 4, 6. Right? If you go clockwise, remember going clockwise, 1 and 4, 6. But this 4, 6 itself can be reduced there. Now, if you reduce that 4, 6, that's actually like having 2 times 2 over 2 times 3, and the 2 goes away, and you're pretty much left with 1 and 2/3. So in other words, this part here, this 10 and 1/6, is actually 1 and 2/3, and if you're adding them up, 1 plus 1 should be 2, and you're left with 2 and 2/3. So that's the sum. So we're done with the first part. We're done that the sum is equal to 2 and 2/3. So what are we going to do now? We're going to have to divide. Well, this sum, in this case, the sum of the items, 2 and 2/3, divided by the number of items, divided by 3. Now, this turns out to be chapter 4 when we're dividing fractions. First step, make sure that these two are fractions. So this is a mixed numeral, so let's change that into improper fraction. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, so it will be 8/3 divided by 3/1, because the whole number, to be a fraction, you just write a 1 underneath. Now this division statement must be changed into a multiplication, and to do that I must switch or use the reciprocal of the second fraction. So that will be 1/3. Now you try to reduce something, but 8 doesn't have any factor of 3, so you just multiply across. 8 times 1 is 8, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that should be your average. Now that's the average. Now you may say, well, that seems not reduced. Well, it is reduced because the 8 is a 2 times 2 times 2, and the bottom you have 3 times 3, and you cannot reduce that. Therefore, that will be your final answer. Make sure you add them every fraction and divide it by the number of fractions. In this case was 3 fractions, so add the 5 6 2/3 and 1 and 1/6, you find the sum. This one here is the sum, and divided by the number of fractions, 1 2 3 fractions. Make sure you reduce, simplify to its lowest terms, and this will be your final answer. Problem 14. Find the difference between 8 and 1/9 and 5 and 2/3. Now this part falls into the vocabulary section that we have done, the language part. Now what does the difference means? The difference was, or the difference is, the result of a subtraction statement. So pretty much they're asking you to subtract 8 and 1/9 minus 5 and 2/3. So that's what we're going to do. So let's align them vertically. 8 and 1/9 minus 5 and 2/3. But to do this subtraction, I need them to have the same denominator. Therefore, let's factor them and find the LCD. So 9 is 3 times 3, and this is just a 3. So my LCM, or LCD in this case, will be 3 times 3, which is, this case is 3 times 3. And is this 3 already included here? Yes, it is. I have one enough, so my LCD should be 9. So since my LCD is 9, I gotta make sure that each of them is a 9. Like this is already a 9, but this is not a 9. So since this is already a 9, I'm just gonna copy again 8 and 1/9. However, this part here is not, so I gotta multiply times 3 top and bottom, and I will obtain 5 and 6 over 9. So let's do this again. A 5 6 over 9. Let's subtract them now, but I cannot subtract 1 minus 6, right? 1 is too small, and minus 6 there's not enough, so we got to do the borrowing part here. So this part will become 7, and this borrowing a full 1. So now this is an improper fraction, which I must change into, it's a mixed number, which I must change to an improper fraction. So I keep my 7. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10, so that will be 10 over 9. And the bottom part we didn't do anything, so just keeps the same, and we're subtracting this. Now you can do 10 minus 6 is 4 over 9, you keep your same denominator, and 7 minus 5 is 2. We gotta make sure that this part here is not an improper. Is this an improper fraction? It's not. So far so good. Is this reduced? Well, that 4 is a 2 times 2, and the 9 is a 3 times 3, so there is nothing to cancel out. Therefore our final answer is 2 and 4/9. Like this is your final answer. This is the difference. You might want to say the difference is 2 and 4/9. So recall that the difference is the result of the answer of a subtraction statement. So 8 1/9 minus 5 2/3. Sometimes we have to do some borrowing in that part, so if you gotta do some borrowing, make sure you borrow, make sure you give it one full whole number 1, and convert the mixed numeral into an improper. That will allow you to subtract 10 minus 6 to give you the 4/9. Okay, and all the time as well, always rewrite your whole part. That will help you a lot. Okay, so that will be 2 and 4/9 as a final answer.